When we talk of plane routes, like if this particular point is where the route is defined, right? That a plane goes through, is it the same route for every plane ama there's a variation?
Unajua, there's a way, the same way ukitoka, tuseme umetoka town,
yes,
nataka ufike Njogoo Road. Maybe ufike Mbotela ama Buruburu.
Yes.
Uwezi chukua njia ya Rongai. Umeelewa? You cannot go na route ya Langata Road.
Yes.
Lazima utapitia tu Njogoo Road ama utafutia Outer Ring and all that.
Yes.
So, what will inform, hizo routes ziko hapo na ni standard. Ziko tu hapo, hizo reporting, tunazita reporting points.
Yes.
Whereby ndege ikifika, kuna hizo, kuna coordinates ni ana report. Maybe niko overhead this place, particular place. So they are standard, but it will depend on where you're going. Number one, tunaona ndege zina fly too, but you wonder how these things separated. Haziwezi
Yes.
gongana.
Yes.
Those are some of the reasons why we have those routes. First of all, to separate hizo ndege. And then number two, to make sure unafika mali unaenda. Because unajua ukishafika huko kwa clouds, I think pilot anaweza kuongea na mimi. Sometimes unafika unaona ni kama everywhere is the same, especially ukiwa kwa clouds. So you need the controller akuguide. Kama unaenda Mombasa usijipate Malindi, because there's a possibility unaweza potea. So hizo routes una make sure, alafu lazima ubaki kwa barabara yako. Usi stretch uende kwa hii side opposite, utakutana na mwenzako, because sometimes unapata huko hapa, mwingine ako hapa. As much as wanakaa karibu, they are very separated. Na hakuna siku watakutana.
So it's not like ati unaona kuna kitu uona unajua umefika place flani, there is nothing like that. And there's a possibility, it's interesting that you say there's a possibility ya kupotea. Like Cairo unaweza toka Wilson, alafu usikie this is at Khalif Kairo reporting, usikie je m'appelle.
No, guys actually get lost. I'll give you a very good example.
Walai.
Guys get lost. Especially sasa now ndio bado unasema sasa there are different levels. You see, for a guy flying at KQ in an airline setup, even the planes are very advanced. They know their routes. Ni kitu mtu anafanyanga. Mtu anapiganga flight ya kwenda Joburg every day.
Yes.
You know, the airline will come up with the route, put it in the hard disk of the aircraft. The aircraft even has storage for all those routes. They have a computer that plans everything, the flights. When they take off, they set the autopilot. And the plane basically can actually literally fly itself using whatever the pilot's programmed. But now, hii kufly yetu ya private now, let's say you have your own plane. Let's say we are going to Magadi. Like, Magadi and Lake Natron zinakuanga zimekaribiana sana. They're actually very near.
Okay.
So if you're approaching Magadi and you fail to pay attention, it's very easy for you to miss Magadi and now assume you're going to Magadi Jipate Natron, which is now in Tanzania. It happens a lot because now in such a scenario, there are different ways of navigating. You can navigate using physical objects. Like ukiona, of course, mimi nikiona Ngong Hills najuanga si uko mbali sana na Wilson na si uko mbali sana na Jomo. Nikiona Aberdare this side, nione Mount Kenya this side, najua na Nyuki iko mahali hapa katikati. Okay. So at times, so if you're using your eyes to navigate, you'll of course get lost at times. So you need to have a very good understanding of the terrain of the area you're flying in.
Okay.
Now this is bush flying sasa. Inile kufly. Inile now flying, not really flying like in a professional setup, but not in a private setup. Or maybe flying these small planes, okay, where you're going to small runways. But nowadays GPS has made things easier. But kitambo tulikuwa hata siku hizi syllabus ya Kenya, you still learn to fly using charts.
Okay.
So before we go for a flight, like my instructor will tell me, plot the route. So I'll draw a line, nikiondokea milima, and then he'll tell me, after every 10 minutes, I'm supposed to see a certain physical object, and then log it.
After every 10 minutes?
No, it depends. For our school, I fly for a school called Flightstar. At Flightstar, the policy is you need to have a waypoint every 10 nautical miles. You need to have a waypoint. After every 10 nautical miles, you need to say,
yes,
you need to have a point on the ground that you need to reference. So lazima uchungulie chini, uone nilikuwa nimesema nikienda after 10 minutes nafaa kuona rail track. Ndio hiyo nimeiona. So you log it down. Kidogo after another 10 nautical miles, then you look out. We are supposed to see a hill on our right. Tumeiona on our left, meaning we are off track. You correct. So that's how you basically navigate.
Na ukichungulia chini uzubae uone kitu ni hivyo.
Nini ufanye nini?
Ukizubaa kidogo, like ukichungulia chini uone kitu. Manze.
Useme
uko kwa ndege sema huko 50 by 100 itakuwa azin, alafu uzubae.
Ni pressure. Sasa si unajua so unajua now what normally happens ukipotea, now you call them. you can actually call them now, you tell them, look, we are lost. please give us the vectors maybe back to Wilson. You'll actually call them.
Oh, that's where the radar comes in because
Yeah,
you can't
wako, they can
describe
still
where
see
you
you.
are.
But now
unaona nini mahali huko?
Lakini unajua ni embarrassing. Of course ni kwanza shule ni embarrassing sana. Like
Kupotea.
Ulipotea, wewe unapotea aje wewe?
Buda umepotea sana.
Unapotea aje exactly. So you will call, na kama ulipotea place mbaya pia sasa ni kesi na hawa
Kupotea place mbaya ina
sasa inamaanisha unajua kuna pia restricted airspace kama kwenye President William anaishi.
Yes.
No go zone,
so
huko huwezi karibia, so ukaenda huko,
so tuseme assuming airspace iko hivi like kama where the president stays, unafaa upige
bas. Kuna nini, it's even unaona hata kwa chart za Kenya za flying kuna places zinakwanga zimechoro circles zinaitango prohibited areas.
Exactly. So you see kama unaenda Donholm unaweza pitia Rongai.
But
you see where it comes in.
Achana hiyo unaweza pitia Rongai. Do you have justification? That's the reason. Do you have justification kwa nini umepitia Rongai? If you can justify hakuna shida.
But pia unajua they can also ask for an explanation.
Because
Actually they'll actually call you and ask for an explanation.
But that's where yes,
everything you do in aviation, actually everything you do, you have to have a reason which is justifiable according to the procedures.
And that brings us to a very important point. How you talk to someone mwenye ako kwa hewa is very important.
Yes.
So ukiuliza hii justification unasema you will get in trouble with them.
Yes.
Unamsomea sasa hiyo ama unangoja aweke ndege chini?
Ngoja kwanza uweke chini.
Weke chini then
au msomei akiwa huko juu.
And then they tell you report to tower. With your license.
Na ukireport inaweza enda hivi.
Una report.
Unaenda tu. So na sasa ni kesi.
Ni lazima uende ama
so utakosa kwenda.
Sasa utakosaje kwenda?
Sasa ni pressure kwanza sasa so unajua registration ya ndege. Yes. So unajua ndege ni ya nani? Si shule iko na records. Hata ukosa kuenda they'll just call the school. Hii ndege yenu ilifanya kitu last time, so you need to do a report. And they can even send inspectors to the school.
Yes.
And there's no
and withdraw even license of operation.
Of the school.
Yes.
So hii kitu ya flying under the radar.
Sasa there are two rules of flying.
Yes.
There is visual flight rule. Hiyo visual flight rule ni hiyo anakuambia unaangalia chini where you are and also you make yourself be seen by others. That one with
where you can be seen by others.
By others.
Yes.
Yes. Where you use the physical features to define where you are.
Yes.
And then there is instrument flight rule where you fully rely on the cockpit instrument.
Yes.
You don't have to rely on the physical features to know your position.
Okay.
So you see, what you are saying comes out of vigorous training.
Okay.
Vigorous training, including ile yenye unasema ati unaweza ongelesha mzee ati ni aje best. You know,
you can't.
In aviation, that is totally not allowed.
You are not allowed to be friendly.
Yes.
You are trained not to be friendly.
You are trained not to be friendly, but you are trained not to get into your personal communication, because there is what we call radio telephony procedures.
Yes.
Now that skill, impart the skill to you how you should be communicating aviation related issues. Okay. And in aviation, safety comes first.
Okay. So I would assume that one of the perks of owning a private jet is just walking into your plane, going to London, walking into your plane, going to Qatar. Is that true?
Yes.
As in private jets don't conform to the processes, the clearance, the normal planes.
Can you imagine kama I'll throw it back to you.
Yes.
Uko na private jet yako. You
Thank
want
you.
to do
Amen.
whatever you want. And then Kairo pia kimaliza apate yake.
Yes.
Pia yeye anataka kufanya chenye anataka.
Yes.
Then we have another person also wants to do whatever they want. Na nyinyi wote remember amuonani. Sasa huyu maybe nyinyi wote mnataka kwenda same destination but mmetoka place different. Na mnataka kufanya kenye mnataka. What will happen? What will happen? Nyinyi wote amjuani, ujui huyu anaenda, ujui anaenda na amja communicate. Nyinyi wote mmetoka tu mnaenda. Sasa niambie nini kitafanyika?
Okay. Are you saying that hata hizo private jets have to go through hizo processes zingine zote?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you see, people think private jets are like probably very different from airliners. Actually, some of these private jets are basically airliners that have been reconfigured for private use. So the training is still the same. Like I'll give you a very good practical example. The Challenger private jet is essentially a CRJ jet, which you'll find Ugandan Airlines operating. But ikipigwa conversion ya private, the manufacturer will sell it under a different designation. But at the end of the day, you see, they even countries that have big private jets for their presidents that are actually commercial airliners.
Yes.
Kama Air Force One ni Boeing 747.
Yes.
So training bado ni ile, procedures ni the same.
Okay.
The way you talk to air traffic control is still the same. Kama ni procedures za customs, because the plane also has to be searched, checked, they're still the same.
Okay.
It's only that now sasa hii baby watu wakalipa fare, maybe inabeba mtu mmoja, but it's still
Which
the same
makes
thing.
the nini hizo ma clearances zinakaa. Hapo ndio the difference comes in.
Yes. But
Okay.
procedures kwanza za security,
Okay.
the same.
So even for the people who take their children to school in choppers, they have to be cleared every morning.
There has to be clearance because you see, for the pilot, because of safety aspects, I know he will not agree with this, but you are at the mercy of the air traffic controller.
Yes.
Why? Because he has explained. Ukipotea, nani anakusaidia ku find where you are? Yeah?
Okay.
He's the controller. And therefore, is let me say it in plain language, is good mannerism.
Okay.
Even if you want to take your children to school in a
Yes.
chopper,
Yes.
you say you are departing
Oh.
this area and your destination will be this area. You are expected to take flight time of this time, and therefore that one you express yourself to the air traffic controller.
Thank you.
Yes.
And in your training, do you have to know more about the plane, as much about the plane as the pilot? Because we have seen, and this is from the movies, I'm sorry to quote a movie for you, if you are to, we've seen areas where the air traffic controller can guide someone to land a plane. How much do you need to know about the operations of a plane?
So let me just take you back a bit about when you're recruited as an air traffic controller.
Yes.
Just take a normal person. Personally, I was a banker before.
You were a banker before?
Before I joined air traffic control. There are certain criteria that they look at for you to be onboarded. So number one, you have to go through a rigorous training, which takes around 18 months.
18 months?
Yes. And there are various aspects in aviation that you have to be taken through. We have laws that guides our operations.
So you're also a lawyer?
Aviation law.
Aviation law.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, law.
And we have aircraft performance and all that, so that I can know if it's this kind of aircraft, what kind of separation do I provide, and so on. We have something to do with meteorology. Aviation, remember, is affected by weather so much. And we have aviation language.
Yes.
That all of this you have to pass. And going back, as I can see you're very keen on your private helicopter. Aviation industry is an ecosystem whereby all the systems have to work for it to be safe. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, safety, even you with your chopper, you want to land where you're going. You don't want to end your journey somewhere on the way because you have...
Even if you're the only person with a
Yes.
chopper in your village,
Yes,
you have
we want to land. So safety is very paramount, and there are very many experts and stakeholders who have put in place so many procedures, so many standards. We have standards, recommendations that before you join the aviation ecology,
Yes.
whether you are an engineer, whether you are a cleaner, whether you are, so long as you work in the airport, we have various standards that normally guides us.
Yes.
So you have to go through them depending on the work you're doing. So coming back to air traffic control, there are some parameters that I have to learn and even pass because we are examined and have a license.
Ukienda kuland, there are planes, because I'm sure you've interacted with this, the plane is so heavy because of fuel, at some point you have to dump the fuel.
Yes.
Hii mafuta inaenda ngapi? Why haven't I ever had someone amemwagikiwa na mafuta kutoka juu? As in, mtu ana feel, hata misconception ya someone, mazee I'm anointed. Like, ulimwagikiwa na mafuta. Hiyo mafuta, is it because it's so high? Ama is it for commercial airplanes only? Ama hata hizi zenu ndogo ndogo, you have, mnakuanga na mafuta ya kumwaga?
Apana, it's actually mostly for very big aircraft, because now what happens when you're doing performance planning, there's something we call for each particular type of aircraft kuna maximum takeoff weight na kuna maximum landing weight. Beget, kuna maximum takeoff weight na kuna maximum landing weight.
Okay.
So unaweza pata like ndege inaenda, sema we are doing a flight to a place like New York.
Yes.
So this plane is designed to stay in the air for 16 hours or 15 hours.
Yes.
So the assumption is once you take off, you don't have to land immediately.
Anywhere.
As the plane is flying, it's going to burn up most of the fuel because those planes carry a lot of fuel. By a lot of fuel, I mean like 40,000 liters kwenda na juu. Like a lot, really a lot of fuel. So what happens in the event of an emergency, this plane has taken off. It was within its limit for the maximum takeoff weight. But now because it's carrying too much fuel, there's a very big risk if you attempted to land that aircraft with all that fuel weight. So what typically happens is that once you say that you have a problem and you want to dump fuel, it's again the responsibility of the air traffic control to take you to a certain altitude. For different aeroplanes, I understand there are certain limits to what altitude you can commence a fuel dump. And then it will be the responsibility of the air traffic control unit to guide you to a safe place where you can dump off the fuel. Yeah, so it could be
tu ati
zi hapana, huwezi come tu juu ya tau unaangusha mafuta, no, you can't.
watu wakuje wase tuchoteni mafuta.
Hapana, no. Yeah.
Sawa. Before we let you guys go, quick one. You say that there are actually ground accidents, that aeroplanes hazikuangi blanda ati tu uko hewani, just hapa kwa ground.
Yes.
You can tell us a brief highlight of that, alafu Kairo tuambie about your scare ukiwa kwa hewa.
Yes, first of all, I would want to say that aviation, the safety is guided by set standards by International Civil Aviation Organization. Now, those set standards cover the airspace while the flight is in the air,
yes,
and also cover the ground, yes, while the flight is maneuvering ground. Now, one important facility of an airport is the runway. That is a very critical facility,
yes,
of an airport. And therefore, as plane lands, the plane can veer off on landing, either as a result of defective standards on the runway, it veers off.
Yes.
And when it veers off, there is a possible accident. I know for you, you know, you are very conversant with accident. But for us in aviation, you are conversant in the sense that that is the term you are you are conversant with. Yes. But for us in aviation, we call it an incident, and we turn to accident when there is a damage to aircraft and when there is a fatality. And therefore, when a plane veers off, that is an incident because it can cause the instruments of a plane maybe to get damaged, or even the structural component of a plane to get damaged. There can also be accidents while an aircraft is taxiing.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
As a result of those standards set for the taxiways have gone down. And therefore, you will find that on taxiway there can be aircraft-to-aircraft collision. Yeah? There can be aircraft-to-aircraft collisions. The second other incident, there can be aircraft vehicle collision, because the taxiways and even the aprons, there are vehicles operating within that area. There can even be aircraft persons collision, because there are also staff working around as a result of either one component of aviation neglecting standard, the set standard.
Yes. Yes.
So you see there are several types of accident, or as you may call it, while on ground and while in the air.
So, and why are helicopters not allowed to fly past 6? Is it because other pilots may confuse them for mosquitoes?
One thing,
yes,
most of the helicopters, they don't fly high levels. Yeah, they don't fly high levels, and therefore, when they don't fly levels, it means that they will be flying with reference to ground.
Yes.
Most of the time, most of the helicopters, and therefore, if you have to refer to ground, then it must be daylight.
Oh.
It has to be daylight. You get the logic why they don't fly past 6. Only when a helicopter is fitted with instruments in the cockpit. And therefore, it will change from visual flight rule to instrument flight rule.
Okay. Sawa sawa. At least explain vizuri. When you mentioned helicopters and ground, I thought that's why politicians love them. Na mimi Kairo, please tukifunga, please tuambie incident yenye, and I don't know, okay, sometimes sisi watu wa believe in God, I would be very interested to see how as a pilot, ukiwa huko juu na ukiwa up and down, where do prayers work the most? But ukiwa kwa ndege, you've had a scare.
Yes.
Tell us about what went through your mind for a moment.
No, it was actually my first scare. And the good thing is I was with my instructor. I remember I froze.
Na yeye?
So nilimwambianga, I remember I told him, sasa tadu. No, I told him, sasa utadu. Kaniambia si nitadu, tutadu.
Oh, nyinyi wote.
Yeah, because nilishtuka mara kwanza. We were just doing a climb and then the engine started misbehaving.
Yes.
Like I've had nilikuwa na very good experience, you know, no issues, everything goes according to plan. The flights are fun, you know, you're training with someone who understands what he's doing.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, you also see him panic a little and then you're like,
Yes.
oh God, is it the day I die today? And then we were just flying in a coastal area.
Yeah.
So on one side you have the ground, on the other side you have the sea. But the good thing is the guy I was training is nimserojo niambia tu ni aje. If the engine quits on us, we just put it on the beach. Tena nika panic mara ya pili. Yeah, so I was really scared. But after like 1 minute or 2 minutes hivi, you know, the composure starts coming back and then you remember your training. Then it's like, look, you remember what we said. You have to maybe set the aircraft to fly at a certain speed. Let's start looking for a place where we can safely perform a forced landing. That doesn't kill us. Maybe the plane might get damaged, but at least
you are choosing how to die. Like how is
not really how to die. I'd say you're looking at the place where ukiangusha hii ndege hapa, you know start looking at risks. For instance, you might see a road, but then you see power lines. So like if I try to land on this road, the power lines will spin me out of control and maybe make the crash very dangerous.
Die of shock.
Yeah, exactly. So on the other side, maybe unaweza ona maji useme, if I put it in the sea, I don't know how to swim. And then on the other side, maybe there's a very good open field. You're like, nice. Let's put it on this field. Maybe kiwanja ya futa. Wacha tu hakuna mtu, wacha tuiweke hapo. So that's what we started doing. But the good thing is we weren't too far away from the airport, so we just declared that we were having a bit of problems. Again, the ATC comes in because they guide you, they clear out the runway for you, and then thankfully we made the landing. But I remember for a day or two I didn't want to see any plane. But after like 1 week I was like, you only die once.
So you confirm that your decision not to go in the water was because you can't swim?
No, because I actually think from where I sit, I think landing in water is dangerous because what if the door doesn't open? You know, here dying by drowning is very painful. So because you see, you can crash in the water and maybe for some weird reason maybe your door doesn't open, or maybe you're stuck in the plane and then you drown. So I'm like, if I'm going to choose how I die, I'd rather die of a broken leg or bleeding out, not drowning. I mean, it sounds less scary.
You'd rather die of a broken leg?
Yeah, or something. Drowning.
Death is death, but you'd rather.
No, I'd rather.
It will be costly to start searching for him in the water than when he dies after broken leg.
Also ni kumake matanga yako
But I think, honestly speaking, I think there's a higher chance. If you put a plane down like on a field,
yes,
chances are you might, if you put it down very well, you might actually walk. But kwa maji,
yes,
kudrown hapana.